Stop making useless Yu-Gi-Oh cards, Konami rant. I can, like, okay, from just the title, right? I also think it's kind of pointless. And I feel like it's tied a lot to the thought of, like, I guess power levels of archetypes, right? And how power has to make an archetype, like, viable, right? Or power determines popularity, right? It doesn't determine it absolutely, but it's a heavy determiner of it, right? It is a heavy factor of, like, a archetype's, like, viability and, like, being popular and being received by the community, right? So one example again is if you go to my video and, like, someone's talking about Nemloria and how they have cool design, right? How the other person replied and basically said, no, it's not cool to suck, right? It's not cool to be weak, right? A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh, I feel like Yu-Gi-Oh just needs other formats to have their different archetypes, their, like, good design kind of come out and, you know, show itself. I feel like that would be really good for Yu-Gi-Oh personally. But yeah. But yeah, let's see exactly what he has to say about this.
Hey guys, Paul here. So a big topic of discussion in the Yu-Gi-Oh community over the last couple of weeks has been around the decreasing value of sealed Yu-Gi-Oh product and what Konami could be doing to solve it. So
okay. Yeah, okay. So this is talking about, like, the Ruxin video, right? That not a lot of people are buying the new boxes, right? Which makes a lot of sense, right? There were, you know, there basically, if you don't know, Yu-Gi-Oh trading card game, TCG, the paper format, the cardboard game, right? That, you know, all the boomers play. Basically, that's not doing too hot, or at least a lot of shops. A lot of shops are dropping Yu-Gi-Oh as a product because they are not making money on, like, the cases they buy. They're not making money on selling Yu-Gi-Oh product. So the cause of this is, at least that the community can seemingly agree upon, is because the cards that Konami is printing, a lot of the cards in the set are not very good. They're not very meta defining, right? Like Vanquish Soul, I think, was a really cool archetype and it has a lot of popularity, but at the same time, I don't think it's, like, taking over the meta, right? It's not the new Kashtira, right? Yeah, I definitely understand, like, the sentiment, but I want to go, like, a step further. My sentiment, my thoughts on this is always, like, a step further. It is not simply that Konami is not making or not putting a lot of power into these card sets, that's why they're not selling. My working theory, my thoughts are that Yu-Gi-Oh interest is dwindling, that Yu-Gi-Oh's main sort of market appeal, the reason why you buy into Yu-Gi-Oh and maybe not Pokemon or maybe not, like, Magic the Gathering, is because Yu-Gi-Oh had a very successful anime start. It had a very successful anime series in Duel Monsters, and it was so culture defining, it was so, like, groundbreaking, and so many people loved it, right? And the fact of the matter is that Master Duel format Yu-Gi-Oh, advanced format Yu-Gi-Oh, the Yu-Gi-Oh that we play on Master Duel, right, is just not being supported now by anime. And there are no new characters to love. There are no new characters using the archetypes that to love. Like, there's no hot mommy ninja playing Altergeist, right? There's just not a lot of reasons now to fall in love with these new archetypes and new sets. And so they don't have that as a reasoning to buy the sets, right? That reasoning just doesn't exist anymore. Where it did exist before and was a huge way to sell product, it doesn't exist anymore, and so that's obviously going to have a huge impact on the sales and the profitability of Yu-Gi-Oh product, at least in my eyes, right? So I think that the fact that standard Master Duel format Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have an anime is a huge reason why Yu-Gi-Oh interest is dwindling. It's a huge interest why the profitability is lower and that people are deciding to not sell Yu-Gi-Oh product. And I think it's not just the power level of the cards. I feel like it is definitely the anime. And I also think that Yu-Gi-Oh and Konami, rather, is definitely not going to make a new standard Yu-Gi-Oh anime anytime in the future. They're not interested in doing it. I feel like the 25th anniversary was their biggest opportunity to announce something that could change that narrative. But I feel like after that, it has pretty much solidified in my mind that they don't care about Master Duel format. They don't care about Master Duel format Yu-Gi-Oh, and or rather, they don't care about getting new players hooked into it, and that's just unfortunately going to leave a huge lasting impact in the current TCG and OCG product. OCG not so much, because in Japan it's just such a huge cultural phenomenon. Apparently it outsells Magic in Japan. I don't really know how true that is, but in OCG that's not what we're talking about anyway, because Rush Duel doesn't even really exist in the Western sphere. So what I'm saying though is that Yu-Gi-Oh! Standard Master Duel Yu-Gi-Oh! Is on a downhill trend, and it's going to continue that way unless Konami, like, the only opportunity I see Konami like being able to change that narrative is with Master Duel, specifically the PC client, mobile game client Master Duel, and how they go about that is up to them, right? But I definitely think it's an uphill battle. But yeah, let's watch the video.
Obviously, there's sets like Soul Burning Volcano selling for like $35 a box, Duelist Nexus $50 a box, and plenty of others honestly released this year, and it's caused a bit of an impasse because, you know, card shops are suffering. They don't want to stock Yu-Gi-Oh anymore because they sell it, and like people don't buy it because there's nothing really great to pull, and the players get upset because they feel like the card shops are, like, you know, being greedy and marking things up, and so there's a lot of tension there, and of course the onus kind of falls on Konami to make better quality products. I think at the end of the day, that's the only real solution we've got, right? Now, I was thinking about this, and I think that all of that...
That is one solution. That is one solution. The other solution that is, like, unfeasible, really, it's not feasible, is to find other ways to market your product, right? Find other ways to get people to buy your cards. The other ways could be with different alternate modes of play, right? If you officially sanction and actually spent the time, the money to basically lab out different modes of play that are enticing and is designed to solve the new player problem, right? Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a huge new player problem. New players don't want to learn the game. They think the game is way too hard to learn because there's too much to learn, right? If you actually invested into the product in those fronts, right, you would be able to solve this problem. The problem with that is that Konami has no interest in solving this problem. Konami has zero interest in solving this problem. They are already sold on Rush Duel, right? And Rush Duel's potential, its future success, and its current success in OCG and in Japan, Rush Duel, and the anime, they're doing very, very well, right? So they've already jumped ship. This is a sinking ship, but they know that. They know it's a sinking ship.
That is definitely true. I think every side's got, you know, their own thing to say, and it's all valid and all that great stuff. But some people are saying maybe Konami needs to release fewer products, or some people say that they need to do like better jobs with the rarity distributions and products. I think that there's certainly, you know, some merit to those solutions, and I'm sure Konami's considering it. But one of the things that I've been thinking about for a really long time now, actually, is another way Konami could improve the sort of perceived value in opening a sealed product.
Okay.
It's that so many cards in these sets are, honest to goodness, just useless. And by useless, I don't actually mean that they are bad cards or that they are like badly designed cards or anything like that.
Okay.
But that they are useless. So let me explain. So, all right.
So before he goes into that, I just want to say that just compare like the value of buying a Magic booster box, right? Or even 3 packs of Magic the Gathering, right? And compare that to Yu-Gi-Oh! In Yu-Gi-Oh!, I'm going to buy 3 packs of Yu-Gi-Oh! And I'm going to pull absolute shit, and it's not going to be worth the 15, 20 bucks I spent for those 3 packs. Whatever, however much it costs for the packs, I don't know, right? It's not going to be worth it. It's most likely going to be worth it. And it's not going to help me build a deck. It's not going to help me play the game. It's not going to help me learn the game, right? It's incomplete. It's utterly aimless, and there's nothing I can do with these cards. I had to have had a deck already in order to have any value from these cards. And the cards from those packs are only really valuable to me if I happen to play those archetypes, right? Or if I'm interested in building those decks, right? And compare that to Magic the Gathering, where you buy 3 packs, right? And you can admit yourself into a draft tournament, right? Like, you could play a legitimate, fun game mode that is storied, that people play to this day, that so many tournaments have days for, right? You could play a limited draft format. You could buy 3 packs. You could open them. You could pick out the card and pass the pack, right? There's a format to play in Magic with that, right? I could literally get 3 packs of any booster draft set and play that. Like, I could go across the table and play that with my mom. I taught my mom how to play, like, draft, right? I taught her to play, there's this one product in Magic called Jumpstart. I taught her to play this thing, right? Which is essentially like Speed Duel. Almost, but not really. You take 2 packs here and you slap them together and make a deck. And it's not like a traditional pack. It has lands and it has like creatures, right? It basically has like half a deck, right? And you're basically able to take any 2 packs and merge a deck together with them, right? There are just way better products. There's a lot of different ways to play Magic that make up for the value of the box, that creates different values for the box and creates different ways for, or reasons, incentives for people to buy that product, right? Whereas with Yu-Gi-Oh, the incentive is, maybe I want to build this new deck. Maybe I want to build this new archetype. And maybe not, right? That's about it. In Magic, there's just so many different things you can do with a card pack of 3 boxes you could do, right? Because they exist in multiple different contexts. Wilds of Eldraine exists as both a piece of the standard rotation format. It exists as a draft booster format. Sealed. There's like a variety of different limited formats that you could play with just a Wilds of Eldraine box set. They have their own commander deck products too. There's just so many different ways there are so many different incentives for a customer to buy a Wilds of Eldraine box or a set of their boosters than there are for Yu-Gi-Oh. Nobody's gonna play a sealed game of Yu-Gi-Oh. No one's gonna open 3 packs of Yu-Gi-Oh and try and make a deck and fight their friends with it. It just doesn't work that way because the game doesn't work that way. There's the creatures, the monsters, the spells, the traps. They're very likely, most of them are too archetypical. They are way too like segmented from the rest of the game in order to function well together. And the chances that you open like a well put together deck, right, or even something playable are pretty low. The problem is there's no variations of formats for the weaker archetypes to play with, and sadly that makes the product not worth it. Yeah, exactly. There are not enough modes of play so that you can see and understand why people like Nemluria, Valmonica, or Wild Survivors, okay? Wild Survivors. Like, there's just not a lot of formats, and there are not a lot of modes of play so that you could see Transcendosaurus. I've never heard of Transcendosaurus, right? Dinosaur decks popping off, right? It's I guess support for dinosaurs, which is great for them, right? But Resetti de Poison, Resetti, right? Resetti de, right? This archetype, right? There's just, or even like Incantation. Incantation right now is, I'm pretty sure, like pretty trash, right? There's just not a lot of ways that you could see these different archetypes play, right? Amazing Defenders, right? Rescue Ace, I think, is doing well in OCG, right? Let's see here. Mikanko. Mikanko is very appealing in terms of their art, but at the end of the day, its popularity is going to be heavily determined by their viability and their power level, right? And I don't know if they're that popular of an archetype. I don't really hear too much about Mikanko decks topping, right? But yeah, there's just, for the majority of the archetypes that they do release, right? Valence has to play a Degenerate FTK combo, for instance. Valence has to do that. It doesn't get to play on the flavor of Shinonome deploying herself from the Pendulum Spell Trap Zone, right? It has to play this Degenerate FTK strategy in order to do that, right? It's just it would be better if there are different ways to use these archetypes. Why doesn't Konami make more formats? Are they stupid? The reason why Konami doesn't make more formats is because making more formats requires them to hire people to balance the game and design sets and design product around these ideas and market them, essentially. And that costs money, and they don't want to spend that money. Right? They don't want to spend that money. Because they think that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is an unlearnable, unteachable, very, very hard game to market to casual and hard and new players, that they think it's not worth it. And if they wanted to implement like draft rotation, right? If they wanted to implement standard rotation, they would fundamentally have to rework their upcoming pipeline and like how they release cards and how they design cards. They would fundamentally have to like rework the entire structure and their way of thinking of how to sell cards, right? And that's just something that costs way too much time and money that they are willing to spend. So they're not going to do it. So they're going to instead put their time and money into developing Rush Duel that they can obviously get new people to play. Paul isn't talking about various kinds of jank and pack filler. He's referring to new casual decks and support for existing casual decks specifically. As long as Konami doesn't make an alternate format for casual decks, they should stop making more of those two ideas entirely, which is absurd. That's what he's actually saying. I don't think it's absurd. I don't think it's no, like, yeah, it makes sense. Like, this game is going to die. Yu-Gi-Oh! Is going to die if they don't put more power into their sets, because people are only enticed by power, right? The majority of the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players, the veterans that play this game, you're going to see more money being dropped on a set that supports Kashtira than a set that doesn't. You're going to see more money dropped on sets that are featuring stronger archetypes than sets that don't. That's just the truth. People are not going to buy sets with weaker archetypes. Less people are. Less people are going to buy sets with weaker archetypes, significantly less, such that it's going to damage the market and make it so that people, shops, local game stores are not willing to sell the product. It's not ridiculous. It is the reality. It is the reality of the situation, because power is the only way you sell these cards. It's not the only way, but it's like the main reason. It is the main reason you sell these cards, and when there's not enough power, then this game is going to go down the I don't think it's absurd. I think it is absolute valid sort of recommendation in the interest of keeping the game alive. Because we all know that Yu-Gi-Oh! Lives and thrives off power creep. That's something that you understand. It's like a unwritten contract that you accept when you play and you're invested emotionally, competitively into this game. And it's just something that is going to determine the lifetime of this game. It is something that is directly going to determine the lifetime, the life cycle of this game is the power level of the sets that they release. And so, yeah, I mean, if they want this game to continue, which obviously I think APS would, because he has channels dedicated entirely to Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? That is something he would recommend and prescribe. Mikanko has an uphill battle because it's pigeonholed. The win condition is known so people can play around it. If they reflect damage were just one of the win cons, they'd start topping more. Yeah. See, fun, interesting, different, wild, different ways to win the game. They're not going to sell very well when they suck. They're getting awfully close to set rotation with the way they're banning newest cards and releasing cards that are just as strong. Konami and Yu-Gi-Oh! Has the shittiest form of set rotation, because what it does is you buy these powerful cards and you play them and then they get banned. And then you have to shell out a couple $100 more in order to update your deck, or you have to sell off your deck in order to buy a new one, right? Which sucks. It's not set rotation, because with set rotation, you have lower power level, you have different modes of play, you have ease of access, and that's not what Konami has. They have probably the worst way to manage a standard card game. The fact that it is the only way to play this game is stupid. And don't tell me like unlimited is actually a game mode. Or not unlimited. Yeah, don't tell me that traditional format is actually something that's played. This isn't even played in Master Duel. Like, don't tell me like people actually play this bullshit.
Legendary Duelist Soulburning Volcano supports 3 different fire archetypes: Salamangrates, Volcanics, and Battling Boxers. So Salamangrate's one of those decks where there's kind of this idea that maybe it could actually still be viable in the metagame today. Especially with new cards like, say, Salamangrate of Fire, kind of add some consistency to things. Maybe they were, to throw like Salamangrate Gazelle to 2 or 3 on the next ban list. This could be a deck that could actually compete, and that'd be great and that'd be fun. That's sort of something in that set. But as far as Battling Boxers and Volcanics go, they just aren't really there, right? They're just not really strong enough to compete with meta decks. But that does not actually mean that their cards in the set are like bad, right? Battling Boxers get some really cool new things. They get Promoter, they get Uppercutter, they get a new Counter Trap. Nice. These are all things that like really still manage to keep the Battling Boxer DNA and make the deck a lot more interesting and sort of solve some issues and holes that the deck has.
Yeah.
Same with Volcanics. I think that Volcanic Emission, I believe, is the new trap card, and Volcanic Emperor, like as the new boss monster and stuff. Really cool new cards. They're quite powerful, and they do, propel the Volcanic deck from like complete trash meme status to like serviceable fun deck, right?
Okay.
So, here's the problem. Where the hell are you going to play these decks? And I'm not like saying that as hyperbole. Where are you going to play these decks? There is no place to use these decks. There's nowhere where you can really comfortably use a Battling Boxer deck, even with its new support. It's not strong enough.
Yeah, exactly. This is exactly what I said. There's nothing, so far so good. There's nothing invalid about anything he's saying. Where are you going to actually take your Battling Boxer deck? You're going to take it to your locals? You're going to take it to regionals? You're going to take it to YCS? You're going to take it to, like, where the fuck are you going to take your Battling Boxer deck that you spent, like, at least $300 on? Like, right? Where the fuck are you going to take it? You're going to take it to your friend's house? Oh, well, why don't you just play Dueling Book? Why don't you just play Master Duel? Why don't you just do that? Play with your friend. Play Dueling Book, play Yu-Gi-Oh! Omega. Why not just do that? It's like, you're not going to take that deck, like, anywhere in a public setting because you're just going to get trashed. Unless you had the culture, unless you had the local game scene, unless you had the friends, unless you had A, B, C, D all the way to fucking Z, But that's not what most people have. Most people don't have those things. So if most people don't have those things, then most people aren't going to buy the product. And if most people don't buy the product is not going to sell. If the product's not going to sell, the game is going to die. Right? It's so obvious. It is so obvious that support for these types that don't propel them into tier 1, tier 2 status is not going to sell.
Enough to beat, Castera and Branded and all these other strong meta decks. And as far as like that concerned, where else would you play a deck? You wait for it to come into Master Duel and maybe you can have some fun on casual mode. But there's not a format where these decks can be used. Yeah. And so, spoiler.
He's saying exactly what I'm saying. I didn't pre-watch this. I didn't watch this before. There's no format. There's no alternate mode of play to enjoy these archetypes. There's no alternate mode of play that I can enjoy Valmonica or Nemloria that's coming up, right? There's no alternate mode of play that I can enjoy Transcendosaurus fully to their like how they were designed and like the depth that, or like the sort of expression that the Transcendosaurus brings, right? Their design, right? There's no way I can really enjoy that when I'm going to get stomped by a Riseheart and he's going to tell me to banish all my cards face down. Or he's going to lock all my zones. There's just nowhere I can play that, right? There's no environment for me to do that. Very likely there isn't, right? Obviously there are exceptions, right? No one's talking about the exceptions. No one's talking about your little one-off, your anecdotal, like your friend group is the best and you can bring your Battling Boxer deck to fight them, right? Nobody cares about that because what we're talking about is the longevity of the game, how the game is to the general use case, the general amount of players, right? The most amount of players, how this game is for them. They're not doing that.
That's kind of where the solution lies, in my opinion, is in a Yu-Gi-Oh format that gives value to these products and gives value to these neat cards. Because if there's one thing that Konami has done a really good job of with Yu-Gi-Oh, and there's plenty of things you can complain about, trust me, but one thing I do think they've done a good job of is making creative, neat, like archetype designs and ideas. There are some like really cool decks and really cool cards that come in these sets, and I just feel like I read them and I'm like, this is great. Where do I play it though? So for instance,
yeah, it's really cool. They're really cool, right? Nemleria features like a sleeping girl who dreams about really destructive monsters, but only can really come alive if the extra deck is basically emptied out, right? Where can I play this really fun, cool idea? I can't. Realistically, I can't.
since I was on TCG
So I'm sure as hell not buying it.
player, I'm sitting here just looking at some of the cool cards in the set. There's this Nemleria archetype, which is cool. It's like the sleeping girl who's like dreaming about food monsters or something, and it seems really fun. I read the cards though.
He's talking about Nemleria. Wait, I'm in Paul's head right now. I'm writing his script. I'm a. What the fuck? He's literally talking about Nemleria.
And I'm like, okay, well, it kind of looks like it's neat to play, but like this isn't strong enough to beat anything.
Yeah.
Like it's just in the metagame. I mean, like you can't like take this to a regional or YCS and really expect to win.
Guys, I am Paul. I forgot to tell you that I am Paul. I'm literally him. I'm him right now. It's kind of, yep. Yep, I'm Paul. Yep, I'm a VTuber now. This is another channel.
And then also there's like other archetypes, Infernobles, right? I'm looking at Unchained right now.
Right.
I've seen some people have a little bit of fun with the like illusion deck, so at least there's maybe something there. But like even in terms of like generic cards, I see Fusion Armament, reveal a fusion monster in your extra deck, summon one of the fusion materials whose name is mentioned on the card from your extra deck or graveyard. And so it's even got Flame Swordsman on the card and like stuff like that. So clearly there's supposed to be some sort of fun legacy deck.
Oh, you guys want to see this. Hold up. Let's look at this. Let's look at this right now. Why the fuck would anyone buy this normal pack? Why would anyone buy this? You know, I went to my Discord and I went to my Yu-Gi-Oh! General and I was looking to see if anyone posted pictures of their pulls, because that's what usually you guys do. Usually you guys post pictures of your pulls on Yu-Gi-Oh! General and you guys talk about like, oh, I pulled this card and oh, that's so great. That's so great that you pulled, 2 Fenrirs. That's so awesome that you pulled 2 Fenrirs, right? Or like, congrats, you pulled, 2 unicorns, whatever. I don't know, whatever, right? Nobody posted their pulls with this pack. Nobody gives a fuck about this pack. This pack is trash. It's trash because it doesn't support any of the archetypes that are good. And if it doesn't support any of the archetypes that are good, nobody cares. Nobody's going to buy this, and it translates to paper. Nobody wants to buy those paper sets either. It's trash. It's effectively trash.
Stuff that you can do with this, or Dark Corridor, that's support for a Dark World deck. But at the end of the day, what are you like? You're not going to be playing a Dark World deck at your local card shop. And I know, I guess there's like the hand loop variant of it, but I mean, like if somebody wants to actually just play a pure Dark World deck because maybe they bought the structure deck last year, there's no like really great place to play it where it really belongs. Somebody wants to maybe experiment with Fusion Armament, no real reason to run it, right? Like why would you play these decks? Because they aren't good enough to win. And, I'm not saying that the decks are badly designed. I'm saying that there's no place for them to be used. Another really good example is...
yeah, they have great design. They have great, like, flavor and, like, expression of, like, what they're doing by their effects, right? There's great design in there. It's just a shame nobody gives a fuck about them.
The Evol deck it got new support in Duelist Nexus. This is like some deck from 2012 or whatever. And I remember when it was released, it wasn't all that great, but cool. They got some new support, and now you can actually make, their new monster, Evilzar Lars. That's a cool new Xyz sort of boss monster. They get a few other cool cards in the set. Great. But like, if I take this to locals, I'll just get stomped by the same decks, and I certainly wouldn't do any better at a regional or ICS. Now, on one hand, the solution could be, well, they should make all these decks like equal power level and like make them all strong enough to compete with,
No. They'll never do that. They can't do that, and that's just pure fantasy. That is just pure fantasy. It's not. There's no way you could do. There's no way you could just balance everything. So many people love to say oh, just balance the game. Just balance the game, forehead. The balance of a game is not, even for a competitive game standpoint, is not the number one thing about a game, right? It is not the number one selling point. It is not what you should aim for, because there is no such thing as absolute balance. There's no such thing as absolute balance. It is an unachievable fantasy. It is an unachievable dream, right? There are only meta games. There are only times where things are more popular, they're played, and there are also a lot of things that counter that strategy that come out, and then they become more popular, and then the strategy that counters that is more popular, right? There's no it's not chess, and even chess isn't balanced, right? It's not Rock'em Sock'em Robots, right? It is a varied game with hundreds, thousands of different tens of thousands of different characters in the form of cards. There's no way you're going to balance it. There's absolutely no way. What you have is, what you need to design first and foremost is a fun game. Even a competitive game needs to first and foremost be fun. That is what you need first. People like to talk about how they care about balance, but they don't talk about the balance in games that suck. Right? No one's going to talk about the balance in games that suck, because nobody talks about that game.
Kashtira and branded, and that certainly could be an option, but I honestly think that what they really need to be doing is just making formats where these decks can feel like they have a space to play.
Yeah.
Because right now, that just doesn't exist. But it's not like the cards aren't cool. Battles of Legend has a load of really cool different anime cards and stuff like that, but you read it and their price tags are all literally, I'm looking at cards right here, right now, that are worth 2 cents. Viper's Grudge, Battlefield Tragedy, Sage of Benevolence, I don't know, just Black Mamba, Xyz Bento. They're cool cards. They could be neat. They could be used in a fun deck if Yu-Gi-Oh games were slowed down to a pace where maybe trap cards could be played.
Yeah, right? Oh, you want to play trap cards? Play Labyrinth. Well, maybe I don't like a big waifu armpit mommy. Maybe I want to play traps in a deck that's not Labyrinth. Well, too bad.
Cards that don't just completely full auto combo on their own still have a place because games might last a few turns. I'm not trying to turn it into a rant about that side of Yu-Gi-Oh! I know that is what it is. I'm just saying that maybe what Konami needs to be doing is making a format that's a little bit lower power level, so all of this stuff doesn't go to waste. Because otherwise, you're getting these 100-card sets sometimes where 5 cards are actually wanted or viable. If you buy Duelist Nexus, you're only looking for Revolution Synchron, Crimson Dragon, and maybe that Chimera Fusion monster. That's 3 cards.
And you know what's really funny? You know what's really sad? What's really funny? They could do it. They could. Just let's look at Wild Survivors, right? You could just have this box, and with all the cards in it, you could make maybe a Transcendosaurus deck, right? You could make a Vanquish Soul deck. You could make a Resetti D whatever the fuck Dix deck, right? You could make all of these type of decks, right? And you could pit them in a battle against each other, and maybe that'll be fun, right? You could absolutely do that with this entire card set. But the problem is that they don't market it. They don't talk about it. They don't tell you that you could play the game this way. And not only do they not do that, they make it so that if you want to play Vanquish Soul, well, you kind of need 3 Rosins, and they're ultra rare. And Pantera, oh yeah, that's ultra rare too. And Heavy Borger, oh that's ultra rare too. And Dr. Madluff, oh yeah, he's ultra rare, right? How many packs am I gonna have to buy to play a Vanquish Soul deck? How many packs am I gonna actually have to buy in this box set, this exclusive, this, if I was just playing a Wild Survivors sealed game with someone, how many boxes, how many packs am I gonna have to buy to, like, actually draft this deck? Probably a lot. Probably a lot. The answer is yes. Yeah, the answer is yes. I'm gonna have to buy a lot.
Set is 100 cards deep. So there's literally just like 90 plus cards that are actual pack filler and feel like they're going to be someone's drink coaster, but it doesn't have to be that way. They are useless in the sense that there is not a place to use these cards outside of your kitchen table with your friends, and that's not exactly easy to set up. So what Konami needs to do is take some responsibility and make an actual like format that, you know, allows these cards to have some room to breathe. Now I know they've got that Rivalry of the Warlords format, but like that is weird because it put the onus on the card shops to make the ban list themselves, and we know that Yu-Gi-Oh players can't really like agree on ban lists and rules for themselves. That's not
what? Wait, what? Rivalry of the Warlords ban list? What is this? Shop? What is he talking about? Is it did he say Rivalry of the Warlords?
Like know that Yu-Gi-Oh players. It's weird because it put the onus on the card shop, you know, allows these cards to have some room to breathe. Now I know they've got that Rivalry of the Warlords format.
What is he saying? I don't even know, but maybe we'll look it up later.
But like that is weird because it put the onus on the card shops to make the ban list themselves, and we know that Yu-Gi-Oh players can't really like agree on ban lists and rules for themselves.
Yeah,
that's not like a slight. It's just literally like I have a different idea of what the ban list should be than you probably do, and then that's probably different than the next person.
Yep.
But the thing is, Konami is kind of
one guy hates floodgates, one guy hates board breakers, one guy hates one card combos, the other guy hates like, I don't know, stall decks, whatever. Another guy hates stun decks, right? If Yu-Gi-Oh players had to come together and decide on a ban list, everything would be banned. If you were to take like a sort of view of like what everyone wants to ban and list them all together, everyone wants to ban like everything. Rivalry of Warlords format, as in they are type locked. Yeah, that's dumb. That's fucking lazy. So you can only play one type? That's fucking lazy. Yeah, that's stupid as hell. Because then, yeah. Because what does that necessitate? That necessitates an additional ban list on top of that. And then, yeah, you have to, like, come up with, like... What... If I'm a local game store, I'm just here to sell cards. Yeah, I am here to host events, and I am here to entice the players, but like Paul said, no one... Very few... It's very, very hard to get the community to establish a player base, to market these events to more people, when it's so hard to agree upon a certain ban list for this format, for this scene. It's really difficult. It's definitely hard to market that.
The authoritative power that can say, hey, this format does not allow these cards, or these cards. Like, it exists. They've tried to do it in the past, like here and there, but they never really seem to follow through. I think now is a really good time to try that out because Yu-Gi-Oh products are definitely struggling, and it's sort of their fault. So, I mean, it
is absolutely their fault. I don't know why Paul has the kid gloves on. It is absolutely their fault.
Entirely their fault, right? Like,
yeah.
It's not that they're not making interesting cards, is that the cards can't be used. So I can buy Battles of Legend, but I'm only looking for a few reprints. I can buy Duelist Nexus, but I'm only looking for 3 cards. I can buy Cyberstorm Access, but I'm just literally going to skip over a lot of the things because they just can't actually be used in a really competitive context.
Yep.
Another really big example of this actually is the structure decks. So the Red Dragon Archfiend structure deck is going to be coming out here in just a couple of weeks.
Okay.
And like, where is someone going to play that? Like, it's cool if you like Red Dragon, if you like Jack Atlas, you can buy it, it's fun, but it doesn't make the deck, like, competitively viable. It just makes...
Yeah, because the people who would want to buy a Red Eyes Archfiend deck are wanting to probably play with other people who just buy structure decks, and that requires a friend. That requires like a format, that requires like a day where everyone just plays and brings structure decks, right? That requires a lot of conditions in order to make it a viable product, in order to make it a sell for a normal casual player. Then at that point there are just way too many conditions, and at that point there are just not going to be a lot of people buying it, right? I'm not saying nobody would buy I'm never going to say like nobody's going to buy these things. I'm never going to say that absolutely nobody is going to buy these things. Absolutely nobody is going to like buy a Red Eyes Dragon Archfiend deck, whatever, structure deck, whatever the product he said, right? I'm not ever saying that. I'm not that stupid, all right? What we're talking about is numbers. How many people are going to buy it? Is a majority going to buy it? Is the general audience going to buy it? Are the Yu-Gi-Oh veterans going to buy it? Are the casual players going to buy it? Are the new players going to buy it? Like, that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about like anecdotes. We're not talking about one-off cases. We're talking about how many boxes are they going to sell? Is it going to keep this game alive?
Makes it a better fun deck, maybe vaguely rogue status if you're lucky. And the thing is, I'm not saying that as a slight against the deck.
It's also largely the community's fault. It's full of people who refuse to enjoy the game with lower power decks. Yep, I agree. But I don't think, well, okay, I agree, I disagree. I don't think it's just the community's fault, Gabe. I think you create your community. You foster your community. You instill into your community certain values with the decisions you make and how you steer them. And when you steer them down a path of, oh, you have to buy this next box set because this has a new powerful archetype that completely wipes everyone out off the board, right? You need to buy this new card set because this has this new archetype that's so totally powerful it eclipses everything else, right? When you release these card sets with that in mind, and it's the same thing over and over, and it's an infinitely climbing, infinitely scaling thing that is the power creep, right? As that is like your main selling point, it's no wonder. It's no wonder you've created a community like this. It's no wonder people are not interested in lower power formats, in draft formats, in different alternate modes of play. Because there isn't an alternate mode of play that is officially sanctioned and marketed by Konami, because they don't care to do that. It's no wonder. Why would anyone expect the community to suddenly be so welcoming and wanting to teach new players, wanting to make different formats, wanting to do all these things? Why would they expect the normal person to do this? Why would anyone expect the normal person to do this? When the game is made this way. It was developed this way. The products were made this way. It was made for you to buy this product because they have new powerful archetypes cards, right? And if it's made that way, if the products are made that way, then the community is also going to be made a certain way.
I like the Red Dragon deck. I've played it myself. It's actually one of the few combo decks that I kind of enjoy using myself and all that. But here's the thing. Where the hell are you going to play it? There's not a structure deck format in Yu-Gi-Oh!
Nope.
And there's not really any other power level that it fits in. So you have to kind of force it. Now, yeah, there's lots of...
You know what Konami is like? Konami is just like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community. It's like, well, you didn't... I mean, come on, man. Like, come on. You have these cards, you have these products. Just make the formats yourself. Just make the format yourself. Why don't you just read the cards, Rednu? Why don't you just read the cards? It's right in front of you. It's like, I don't want to read the cards. Fuck. And like, as a community, like someone in like, you know, as a Konami customer or Yu-Gi-Oh customer, is like, I don't want to make these formats. It's not my job to come up with these formats, right? I just want to play the game. And if I don't have any other ways for me to enjoy the game, I'm not going to go out of my way to make them, right? I already enjoyed the game for what it is. Why are you asking, like, why is the onus on the player? Why is the onus on the community? right? It shouldn't be. It's not the community's responsibility. It's not the player's responsibility to create different ways to enjoy the game. It is far from their responsibility. It's something they can do, but it's not their responsibility, right? The responsibility is on the people who are making the product. I mean, speed duels exist, which is great, but I mean, like, then you have all these boxes that have a bunch of essentially
made formats. People have things like Trinity, and there's also stuff like, Goat and Edison, but Goat and Edison don't let you play the new cards.
Yep.
And so there's a new set, it just comes out like every other week that'll have like 60 to 100 cards, and they're just useless. And it's like, what's the
Nobody
deal,
wants
Konami?
to buy them.
Like, don't make the cards if there's not really a place for them to be played. Now, I know what Konami would have you believe is that all the cards are made equal and you can just do whatever you want with them. But we know that's not true.
That's not.
And I think that they've got to actually own up. If you're going to make, some decks clearly stronger than others, because you can't tell me you haven't read a Kashtira card or a Terra Elements card,
Yep.
and been like, they kind of had a hard on with that one, right? Like, these cards are clearly overtuned, and then you get, like, weak, kind of pathetic little archetypes that can't compete with them. It's not that the weak, pathetic archetypes are outright bad, it's that they aren't, like, meta viable, and there's nothing beyond the meta, beyond the one advanced format that Yu-Gi-Oh! Offers. And that is what I mean when I say that Yu-Gi-Oh! Really does need alternative formats. It could be rotation, I don't care. It could be like a low power thing, it could be Rivalry of Warlords, but Konami needs to like assign power levels to these decks. I know they don't want to imply that some cards are better than others, but we know it's true. Or just do something. Anything to give some real use and value to these packs. Because otherwise, these packs are bulk, and there isn't a reason to buy these packs. Now, granted, is this going to solve the entire problem of like Yu-Gi-Oh's card, price, value, product issue? No, I know. There's a billion other things they could do with rarities and different, price.
No, it will. It will. Like, the product not selling, the like prices of the cards, the prices of the boxes, right? Local game stores not selling your boxes, it will solve it. Alternate modes of play will solve it. If you create products that support different modes of play, it will solve it. Because then there's a fucking reason to buy the product. How is that not the most simplest thing you could, like, the simplest conclusion you can draw from that? If there are reasons to buy the box, then people will buy the box. There are more people that will buy the box if there are more reasons to buy the box, right? It's just it's not rocket science,
prices and all that stuff. But I'm just saying that I should not be able to go through here and see like ultra rare and super rare cards that are worth 9 cents. Because like they're cool cards. Evols are cool. Battling Boxers are cool. Nemlaria is cool. Unchained is cool. But like if it can't really be played at like the one format where it's actually playable, it might as well not exist.
Yep.
And I hope that doesn't come across as hyperbole. I'm being serious when I say this. This is an actual issue, and it's one of the ones that Konami could actually solve more easily than like some of the other things people have been suggesting. So I don't know. I sit here and I read these cards and I just think, man, what a waste.
What a waste. What a fucking waste. What a tragedy that we cannot play these brand new shiny cards in a game that we love because it's filled with people that only want to play to win, to lose, right? Majority speaking, talking about the general, right? It's what a waste. What a waste. It's an absolute tragedy that so much cardboard is going to go to waste because nobody can give a shit about them.
Oh, I'm going to go through a few more, right? I see Gunkin Sue ships, right? These are catch of the day. Cool new card from Cyberstorm Access, but you know what? Where the hell are you going to play Gunkin Sue ships? Or I see Gold Pride. I mean, I heard that got played a little bit, but nobody really seems to be using that. There's Testina in the new set. No one's using those. Makonko. I don't see anybody ever play that, right? Like, there's Battles of Legend. Again, there's so many neat cards in this set that are, like, based on anime things and, like, all that stuff. But again, where are you going to use these decks? So, sorry that rant got a little bit out of hand, but basically what I mean is you could better serve the casual audience and at least give them some reason to play, or even serve the competitive audience.
Yeah.
Competitive players might be interested in these sets if there was a different format to play them in where you could
compete
use
in.
something like Evols. You don't feel like you're just funneled into using the best decks. I don't know. All right, now I get it. This isn't like a perfect solution. Maybe you guys can let me know, what sort of format could Konami create and how should they do it? I know that they must have some sort of a big, reason, marketing, legal, contractual, whatever, where they can't just say this deck is better than this deck. But like, what is the next best thing? I don't know. Do you assign power levels? Do you just outright ban specific, decks, extra deck things? Is it fine to just leave it in the hands of the shop with the what is it, the rivalry, the warlords thing? I don't know, but I just think that there's no reason for so many new cards to come out and just not have a place to be played at all. Yep. I think that's just Konami's fault. So yeah, let me know what you think down.
Well, hold on. I'm gonna just pause. I should have paused a little earlier, but I'm gonna answer his question. Is the answer to his question is it's not my job. It's not my job to come up with a solution for Konami. It's not my job. It's not Paul's job. It's not the community's job. It's not the player's job to figure out a solution, to have a better suggestion for how they should market and make new product and create new cards. It's not my responsibility, right? At the end of the day, if Konami doesn't get their shit together and fix the obvious problems with their game, then it's just gonna die. That's just how it'll be. People will probably hate me for saying that, but that's just what's gonna happen. What else can happen? I'm gonna buy something else. I'm gonna spend my money on something else, and so is everyone else, right? When everyone stops buying the product, they're gonna spend their money on something else. There's plenty of money to be spent. There's plenty of other things to buy. It's not my job to figure out Konami's problem. It's not my job to understand and have a solution. What I can do, what Paul can do, what anyone can do is point out that there are problems with this game, and it's up to Konami to fix them. Right? It is up to Konami to fix them. And what I've seen, the only thing I've seen thus far from Konami and their recent stint of like products, rarity bumping, canceling the 2-player structure deck or whatever the manga thing was, right? Pushing it back to January, sorry. The only things that I've seen from Konami that indicate their action, their intent, what they think about standard Yu-Gi-Oh! Is that they don't. They don't really think about it. Their concern is not it. They know that they've boxed themselves in this hole that they really can't like viably, right? Fuse Biscuit says alternative play often flops when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh. They'll have to commit these formats for a long time, long enough for the community to change. Yeah, it would. You're right. That's the problem that they know exists. That's the problem that they recognize exists, is that it's hard to change your community. It is hard to flip their values. It is hard to convert people to different modes of play, to segment your player base, to introduce these new concepts and new ideas to a player base, especially when most of the player base are just addicted to your game, right? It's hard. It's difficult. It's difficult to introduce these things from their standpoint. And it's hard and difficult to design products and sets and boxes. Or rather, it's not hard. It costs too much money that they're willing to spend. So they're not going to do it. The answer is that they're just not going to do it. All right? So yeah. Let me play out the rest of the video and then we'll talk about some comments here.
In the comments, subscribe to APS Amplifier, trying to get to 100k subs would be really cool. See you guys in the next one. Bastard.
Sick. That was a great video. I do not disagree with anything he said whatsoever. It's almost as if I'm Paul. It's almost as if I'm Paul himself. I cannot disagree with anything he said. Not a single thing. Make sure you guys click the link in the chat, like it, and subscribe if you haven't already to Paul. I think he's been coming out with some really good videos lately, just talking about the state of the game and trying to think about, like, I don't know, trying to get the community, at least his community, to think about, like, hey, what can we do to solve it, right? What could Konami do to fix these problems? I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it's great. I think I think these are good videos. I think the discussion is really nice too. But anyway, what are you guys saying? I love Yu-Gi-Oh because it was unplayable because I love Dark Magician and it's not playable at all. Yeah, that sucks. It sucks for you. Thank Konami. The bigger problem is it's not our job and we do give ideas for solutions, but Konami's deaf. Yeah. Because why should they listen? Why should they listen if people are just gonna buy the product anyway and, you know, all they can do is milk the current community and that's it, right? They're just gonna keep doing that, right? We can't make any new players, so we're just gonna milk the community for what they're worth. That's how I see what they're doing. Maybe you guys have a different viewpoint. I would definitely be interested in knowing what that would be, but yeah. All we can do is give them our input, granted they won't listen to it anyway. Yeah. Not gonna lie, Magic the Gathering is an anomaly because its most popular format is EDH or Commander, which is legit community-made format and later adopted as sanctioned. Magic the Gathering is an anomaly because it is the OG. Magic the Gathering is an anomaly because it created card games. Magic the Gathering is what it is because it has a huge player base, a culture, a community that actually like supports and a community that supports the game. Because Magic the Gathering gave a fuck from the beginning. Magic the Gathering released in 1993. It implemented standard rotation in 1995, 2 years since its inception. Right? 2 years since its inception, Magic the Gathering implemented standard rotation because they already identified and understood that, well, we can't just keep printing more powerful cards because if we do that, we're going to run out of ideas. And if we run out of ideas, then people are going to run out of reasons to buy the new cards. And if people are going to run out of reasons to buy the new cards, then people are just not going to buy them and we're not going to make any money. Right? It's like they understood that. They are always understood that, you know, things don't... They need to support the game in order for it to work. And that's just something Konami never did. Custom ban lists would be a massive step in the right direction. The tool's already there in game. That's how they make festivals. Making them available to the public would be a great first step. Oh yeah. That's a great idea, yeah. Ether Gaming, yeah. That's a great idea. They should allow us to do custom ban lists. Imagine if VTubers could actually tailor their ban lists for their custom dual room lobbies. That'd be awesome. That'd be really good. But what would also be really good is if they didn't make the unlimited cards super high rarity. Like if cards that are banned weren't super high rarity, more people would play alternate formats. And you just have more people playing the game. Am I not understanding something? Because wouldn't this alt format just essentially have the same problem? People will just use the very best deck available in the format? No, see, okay, that's not... So, see, listen, right? It's not the problem that people play the best decks in any given format. That's not the problem, right? The problem is that there are no spaces for these new archetypes, these new ideas to exist, right? And I'll give you an example of like where that isn't the case. Let's say Wilds of Eldraine. Like the best decks in rotation, right? MTGA zone. Okay, let's just see. Dimir midrange, 5-color ramp, mono black aggro, Esper control. So Dimir midrange, mono black midrange, Esper control, right? Maybe some variants of these exist in modern or in historic or in legacy, these formats, but they're very likely not the best decks, right? And the thing about this meta tier list, right? It is constantly changing with each new box set, right? And they're not entirely reflective of what is being played in modern and legacy. Like the best decks here, I can guarantee you are not the best decks in modern, legacy, or any of the the formats that have more card sets in them in Magic, right? The difference is that Magic has many different modes of play for these new cards, like Cut Down, right? Or let's say Graveyard Trespasser. Maybe Graveyard Trespasser would never be played in Modern or Legacy, right? But they are able to be played in the Tier 1 best deck in Standard Rotation. The difference is that these different cards can be played in this space that a lot of people play, that is officially sanctioned, right? These different cards can be played and see relatively very good success, well, apparently tier 1 success, in this format. But that's not a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right? It would allow other decks to be played, it would allow other cards to be played. That's not a thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! Though. The fact of the matter is, like, you're just not going to see that many Transcendosauruses. You're not going to see that many Transcendosaurus players. You're not going to see that many Rossetti players, right? You're not going to see if you you're not going to see a lot of Battle and Boxing players. You're not going to see a lot of Salamangreat players because those decks suck. I don't know what Paul is going on about. I've seen tournament ready decks for all these archetypes on eBay. The problem is that Konami designs cards on purpose to be bad, makes some cards search on summon but put one back, Dream Mirror, but then you have Fenrir, which adds one including itself. They don't print all archetypes with the same level of power. Nope. But that's an unfeasible fantasy either way. So anyway, that's what I thought. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments below. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed this type of content, and I'll see you on the next one.